This conference will now be recorded.
Hello class, and welcome. Unfortunately, there's nobody here, but that's okay. We can still have class. I'm gonna do a recording, and then you can watch it later on. Usually I post the recordings on um, under the week, excuse me. So if we're in week 1, like we are this week, then I'm gonna post this recording under the week 1 live class. Initially, you're gonna see a link for the live class, and then later on you're gonna see a excuse me, I'm distracted because somebody just came into the class. Let me see who it is. Hey Elizabeth, how you doing? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Elizabeth? Hello? Okay. Elizabeth, can you hear me? I hope she can hear me. Okay, Elizabeth, can you hear me now? Okay, can you talk? Or you don't want to talk? Maybe you're in your office or something of the sort, which is fine. I just want to know um, if you try to say something in the microphone, because I would need to hear you for us to have any kind of interaction, right? So just let me know, just type and let me know if you are talking and I can't hear you, or if you would rather stay mute. Please let me know. All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was saying that the discussion was going to be posted under the same link that where you saw the link for logging into Go Meeting. So this time I'm just going to have a recording, and when you click on it, it takes you right to the video. Okay. All right. So without further ado, and I'm sorry that I got distracted. I thought I was talking to myself, and then I realized there was somebody in class. So I had to attend to that. Okay. So what we want to do here is go over the basics. Just go over the basics. And let me see, I can't figure out how to make my microphone work. Okay. That's what Elizabeth is saying. Okay. Hopefully, hopefully you figure that out by the next class. I hope so. So without further ado, I just want to jump into the course and introduce you to some of the basics that you're supposed to be familiar with. I know a lot of you haven't taken a math class in a long time, and then some of you haven't taken an online class ever before. So I just want to assure you that it's not as complicated and as bad as you may be thinking. It's pretty straightforward once you get a hang of it. So what I want to do today is just show you how to navigate Moodle, which you probably have already had some training in, but let me just go over this for a few minutes, if you don't mind. So I'm going to share my screen. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to share my screen. And once I share my screen, you should be able to see anything that I do on my end. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Let's see, where is it? Where is it? Screen, share my screen. Okay. Here we go. Share my screen. Okay. So this is where it helps that I can hear somebody give me some feedback, because I don't know if you can see my screen or not. Elizabeth, could you please tell me if you can see my screen? Can you see my screen? And it says connected to Go Meeting. Can you see that? Okay, excellent. Now, do you see a different screen now, which says peers colleges? Do you see that? Okay, excellent. Okay, so once you log into the course, you're going to see this screen, right? Now, the first thing you want to do um, after you read my bio, if you're interested in reading my bio, first thing you want to do is click on announcements. So if there's anything new, you're going to find it under announcements. So the first thing you want to do anytime you log on is to click on announcements. As you can see, I have two announcements here, welcoming you to the class, and then the other one welcoming you to week one, where I briefly go over the material for week one. And there are a couple of ways of navigating the system. You can either click the back button, or you can just go back and click on Winter 105, and it takes you back to the home page, right? It takes you back to the home page. Now, there was a bit of a mix-up earlier on. I think some of us thought class was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's going to be at 8 o'clock Central Time. I figured that's when most people are going to be available. But then if I try this for a couple of weeks and it doesn't work, I might shift it to an earlier time to see if that works, right? Because the objective here is that I want as many students as possible to attend class. So that's what I'm going to try to do. But for now, it's going to be at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very important, WebAssign. When you click on this link, it takes you to WebAssign, Cengage WebAssign, and that's where we're doing all the homework. Every homework assignment in this course, with the exception of the discussions, are gonna be here. Now, I'm gonna change it to the student view. And let me do that in a second. Let's see. I'm gonna change it to student view because obviously you're not gonna see it the way I see it. You're gonna have the student view. So I'm gonna change this to student view so that it looks like what you're gonna see. Okay. So this is what you're gonna see when you log in, right? And I didn't want to overwhelm you in week one, so I just displayed the week one assignments. I didn't want you to see everything at once. But if you want to work ahead of time, you're more than welcome to do so. You just have to email me and say, hey, I need you to open future assignments because I'm working ahead of time. Okay, and then I'll just open all of them for you. And as we go along, I'm just going to have more weeks open. But in week 1, I didn't want you to be overwhelmed. So I just showed you chapters 1 and 2, which is what we're doing in week 1, chapters 1 and 2. Now, you click on each of these, and it takes you to the individual assignments. Remember, every week there's a quiz and a homework, okay? In the first couple of weeks, we're doing 2 chapters per week. And the reason is not because I want to overwhelm you in week 1, but rather it's because week 1 is pretty mild, so you can handle two chapters at once. Okay, so that when we get to the more heavy stuff, you would have more time, so we don't have to cram 2 chapters into 1 week when we get to, say, chapter 5 or chapter 7. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Elizabeth, can you tell me, because I have quite a few students who are not on WebAssign. Can you tell me how you signed onto WebAssign? Were you automatically already signed up, or you had to sign up and register yourself? Just in case somebody's listening and they haven't signed up yet, they would know what to do. Did you sign up with your email address and your information, or was it already done for you and all you had to do was log in? Okay, so you signed up with the school email. Okay, so anybody listening, that's what you'd have to do. Sign up with the school email, and you know my name and my class, and that's how it works. Okay. Now, this assignment is actually supposed to be due on the 12th, but I shifted it to the 13th, just to give you a little bit more time to finish. As far as assignments are concerned, I don't have a problem with giving you more time to finish. So, if something happens and you're not able to finish an assignment, there's no need to panic. There's no need to send me an email telling me what happened. That would only be necessary if you missed an exam, like the midterm exam or the final exam. Now, when you miss those, it's a big deal. When you miss a quiz or homework, I'm going to reopen it for you. So you don't even have to ask. It's going to be reopened. However, I don't want you to think that because I will be reopening quizzes and homework for you to finish them just in case you didn't. I don't want you to think that you can procrastinate, because what usually happens with online classes is that you keep procrastinating week 1, week 2, and before you know it, it piles up into 3 weeks that you have to catch up on. And usually most students end up dropping out because of that. As you can imagine, it's a pretty daunting task to have to do all that work at once, right? So we're all adults, and any adult student or every adult student, I would imagine, has a purpose, right? This is not like a case where your parents send you to college just because they want you to go. You sign up as an adult student because you want to do something for yourself. So I know and I hope that the motivation is already there, and you just want to get this course out of the way so you can move on to whatever else you need to take. So I'm saying all that to make the point that my flexibility shouldn't be a reason for procrastination. So I would expect you to do the work every week and do it on time. And then just in case something happens, you have the opportunity to do it again. That's the approach that I would take if I was taking an online class. Once again, because it's very easy to fall behind. That's the number one reason, excuse me, why online students drop out, because they procrastinate. The thief of time steals all the time from you, and before you know it, it's just too much. Because remember that by definition, being an adult student means you also have other responsibilities, right? Family, work, and other things. So you definitely want to make sure you have good time management skills, and you set a timetable and decide how many hours you're going to invest in this class. I would say that if you invested 3 hours a week, that would be decent. You know, that you could do more than that. You could do better than that. But if you invested 3 hours a week, so let's say you spend um, an hour on the quiz, an hour on the homework, and an hour studying, that should do the trick. Then again, you know, maybe let's say 3 to 4 hours, because you also have to work on the discussion, which I'm gonna get to. Okay, I'm gonna get to the discussion in a minute. So let me see if anybody else is in class. I'm talking and I'm not looking at this thing. So let me see. Okay, so Elizabeth just asked me a question, which, oh, by the way, Elizabeth, I cannot see what you're typing until I look. So unfortunately, when you type something, I might not see it until a few minutes later. You typed this 3 minutes ago and I'm just seeing it. Do we have to get on attendance days? Okay. Oh, you can work on whatever day. That's a good question with regards to attendance. Here's the thing. With regards to attendance, here's what I want you to do, because there's a bit of an issue with attendance that I get emails from students sometimes. How about this? You can do your work on any day you want to do your work, okay? But on Tuesdays and Fridays, I want you to log into the class. And when you log into the class, I want you to click on something and answer a question. So don't forget that you have an unlimited number of tries for these assignments. And the best effort ends up being your grade. So if you take the homework 4 times and you get 97%, the third time or the first time you get 97%, and the rest of the times you get 5% for whatever reason, your grade is going to be 95% or 97%, right? The highest one is going to be your grade. So in other words, I want you to log on Tuesdays and Fridays, click on the homework. You can just answer 1, 2 questions, whatever, and just click send. It would show that you have done work on those days. Okay, and then I'll give you credit for that. Otherwise, the way it's done is that when I log on Tuesday, I would have to, let's say if I log on Tuesday to do my attendance, then I'll be looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm looking at those 4 days to see if you participated on those 4 days. If you didn't, then I don't give you credit for Tuesday. Now, you probably wanted to do all your work on Wednesday, right? Maybe you prefer to do every single assignment on Wednesday. Well, when I go to do my Friday attendance, I'm going to be looking at Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Then you would get some credit, but then you see you only get credit for one day. So to avoid that problem, I want you to log in on Tuesdays and Fridays, click on an assignment, click submit. You're going to get a 0, 5, but it doesn't matter because you're going to have plenty of opportunities to do that same assignment again, and the highest one is going to be your grade. Okay, so don't worry about that. Don't worry that you did something and got a 0 of 2%. I just want to use that as attendance. Okay, all right. Elizabeth, does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay, well, okay, so we talked about how to get on WebAssign, and another thing that I want to touch on is sending me emails through WebAssign. Please do not send me any emails in WebAssign. If you have a question that you need answered, you can send me an email through my Dallas Institute email address, which is joriskwachi@dallasinstitute.edu. You can send me an email. If it involves a problem, you can screenshot that problem. Okay, screenshot the problem. Remember, if you're working with a PC, the screenshot you can do by pressing the Windows button and the print screen button. Windows print screen. Your screen is gonna flicker, and then you know you just took a screenshot, and then you attach it to your email and send it to me. Or you can send me a text message. You have my phone number. It's 678-653-5291. You can send me a text message, or excuse me, or you can send me an email. But then don't send me an email on WebAssign. And the reason is because when I try to answer that email, it doesn't work. I try to press send and it never goes. And then it looks like I don't answer your emails, but I can't. Okay, so definitely don't send me an email through WebAssign. You can also send me an email through Moodle, right? Right here. This is where all the emails are. I get emails. As you can see, I have two emails right now. So when I click on this, you can click on new message, send someone a message, right? Send me a message. So you can send messages on Moodle, Moodle, Dallas Institute email, Outlook, and then you can also text me. All right. What else do we have? Another thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about the discussions. The discussions are, I think, pretty interesting. I try to pick interesting topics. So this week, because it's the first week, I have introductions and I have the week one discussion. So the week one discussion talks about how funeral directors or just funeral professionals in general, you know, anybody who works in a a funeral home, either as management or in a supervisory role and so on, how do they use mathematics? Well, it's just something you can get creative about, right? So it's nothing that I'm not asking you to make up something out of the ordinary. Just think about it. One thing you have to realize about the discussions is that there really isn't a wrong answer. I mean, you only get a discussion answer wrong if you have clearly demonstrated that you had no interest in even using Google to find any information. You just wrote something that um, didn't really meet the very minimum requirements. But generally speaking, the discussion is meant for interaction. So even if you say something and it's wrong, I or another student might make a suggestion, right? Might offer you constructive criticism, and then we take it from there. So for the most part, the discussion it's a cool 10 or 15 or 20 points or however many points they represent that you can earn just by participating, right? So don't be bashful about responding to a discussion question. Just find out some information and share it with us. Now, one thing you shouldn't do is plagiarize. In other words, if I ask you to do something, you should not go on Google, find something that somebody else wrote, copy and paste it, and just leave it like that, right? Whatever if you're going to use somebody's work, there's a proper way of doing that. You have to cite your sources. Now, there are a couple of different ways to cite. You can use, well, what I use and what I prefer my students to use is the APA format. And just in case you're not familiar with APA, APA is a format that you can use for citation, and it works well with both journals and websites or textbooks. Okay. Now you don't have to do this citation yourself. There's actually software on the internet that does it for you. So let's say I want to cite a source from this website, this very website we're on, Dallas Institute, PS Remote, whatever this URL is. Let's say I want to cite a source from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on, let's look for APA generator. And I'm going to use, there are quite a few of them, but I'm going to use the citation machine. And I'm going to put my website in here. And I'm going to click select. And then I'm going to click final step. Seems to be a bit of spam on the page, but it's okay. Create APA. And you can see it just created the APA format of citation for you, right? This is the proper way of doing citation. You can copy it and then paste it at the end of your post. So please don't copy the work from somewhere else and just leave it. You have to do the citation. And even with that, I don't want you to copy verbatim. So in other words, you can paraphrase what you read. If you read something, you can paraphrase whatever that thing that you read is. And then do the citation. But definitely, you know, the discussion is not meant to be a copy and paste exercise. If it were, we wouldn't have it at all, because I already know that you can copy and paste. But what I need from you is for you to do a little bit of research, investigation, and come up with some findings. Now, I'm not suggesting that somehow if you happen to read something that's fairly complicated, I'm not suggesting that you should paraphrase the whole thing, right? You can quote certain parts of your work, put it in quotations, and cite the source. Okay, but your whole post on the discussion board couldn't be couldn't be a quotation. In other words, you couldn't just say, "Hey, I copied this whole paragraph from somewhere, so I'm gonna put it in quotation as my discussion post, and put the source at the end of it." That's not what we're trying to do. Right? That's not gonna work. So I would suggest that you do it the proper way, and you're gonna notice that getting into the habit of doing this would actually help you in the long run. All right. Elizabeth, do you have any other questions? Any other questions before I move on to something else? Any questions? Hello? Okay, not at this time. Okay. I wish you could fix your microphone, but I'm not sure what the do you is the microphone attached to your laptop, or is it like an external device? It's on your laptop. Okay. 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 I got you. Got you. Okay. No problem. No problem. Um, so we just went over the discussion and what I expect of you. In addition to responding to the discussion question, I also need you to respond to at least two classmates. So your discussion is going to be a main post that answers the discussion prompt or the discussion question. And then you're going to respond to two of your classmates. Now, that response to two of your classmates shouldn't be something like, "Hi, Elizabeth, I like your post. It's very interesting." But that wouldn't work. Or something like, "Hey, John, that's a very cool post or a very cool article you shared with us." That is not going to work. Whatever you say has to add some type of value to the discussion. So it has to either offer some type of constructive criticism or some new information or some analysis of whatever information that the person you're responding to has shared. Okay. So, and this is not, I don't want you to think that this is some type of stringent exercise where I'm out and I'm looking for anybody who didn't uh, post the correct way to penalize them. That's not the point. The point is that we're on the discussion board to share ideas, to have fun, and to learn new things. But then if you make it a habit of doing the bare minimum and trying your best not to fully participate, then eventually it's gonna come to my attention that you're not really interested in what we're doing, and then I'm gonna start scrutinizing your work, because um, if everybody shows up and just writes 2 lines, that wouldn't work, right? So the, on the introductory board where we're supposed to do introductions, it's your prerogative to type, "Hi, my name is John. I'm from Ohio. Nice meeting you." Well, if that's all you want to share about yourself, that's fine. But then that wouldn't work on the discussion board. Right? On the discussion board, you cannot choose how much you want to say. You have to say something substantive. Substantive meaning that you have to say something that has weight, value, and some type of insight, new insight into the topic of discussion. All right. So I think that should be it for the discussions. I'm gonna share something here called the whiteboard. I share my whiteboard, and you can see everything that I write. I have a really cool, fancy pen that I used to write. As you can tell, I'm doodling here, and it's really cool, right? I can draw, I can do all kinds of fancy things, right? So that's what I'm gonna be using, and chapter 1 mainly deals with translating words into figures, which I know you can take care of. So let's start from the part of the work that some of us may be a bit rusty on because you haven't taken a math class in a while, and that's fractions, right? So remember that whenever you take a class that discusses fractions, usually a basic math class, it always starts you from the different kinds of fractions there are. So you have what we call proper fractions, and then you have what we call improper fractions, and then you have what we call mixed numbers. So all of these we can give examples of. A proper fraction is a fraction where the numerator, the number on top, the numerator is smaller than the denominator, like 4 over 5, or 3 over 7, or 1 over 2. These are all proper fractions. And then the improper fractions would be the ones where the number on top is either equal to or bigger than the number at the bottom. In other words, the numerator is bigger than the denominator, right? 17 over 5. A mixed number is a whole number and a proper fraction put together, like 1 and 1/2, or 2 and 3/4, or 7 and 4/5, and so on. These are mixed numbers. So what we want to do is we want to start with simplifying proper fractions. Let's say if you have something like 4/12. How do you simplify a proper fraction? Well, you look for what we call the greatest common factor, right? In other words, the biggest number you can think of that goes into both 4 and 12. And that number is 4. 4 goes here one time, it goes here 3 times. That gives you 1/3. You can do the same with something like 30/45. Now, you're supposed to think of the biggest number you can find that goes into 30 and 45. Okay, that number is 5 because 5 goes into 30 and it goes into 45. Well, actually, it's not 5. I was going to say the number is 3 because 3 goes into 30 and it goes into 45, right? And then I said it's 5 because 5 goes into 30 and 45. But there's an even bigger number, which is 15. And 15 goes into 30 twice, and it goes into 45 3 times. That gives you 2/3. Now, let's just say that it didn't occur to you immediately. Let's say that it wasn't obvious to you that 15 was that number. So let's say you're doing it the regular way, 30/45. So let's say 5 is the number that came to mind. So 5 goes here 6 times, and 5 goes here 9 times. Well, you have 6/9, and then you do it one more time. 6/9. 6 goes here, 3 goes here 2 times, and 3 goes here 3 times. So sometimes you have to do it multiple times to get the answer, right? So that's it for simplifying fractions. I'm trying to go here and read just to see if Elizabeth has asked me a question, because when I'm sharing my screen, I cannot see what she's typing. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So now I'm gonna move on to something slightly more challenging, which is adding and subtracting fractions. There are two scenarios. There's a scenario where the denominators are the same. The denominators are the same. Like when you have 4/7 plus 2/7. When the denominators are the same, all you have to do is combine the top and maintain the same number at the bottom. So adding and subtracting fractions with the same denominators is pretty straightforward. Let's say if I have something like 17/24 minus 9/24. Well, Okay, that's fine. 9 over 24 plus 5 over 24. This gives you 24. 17 minus 9 plus 5. Right? 17 minus 9 plus 5. I believe that gives you 13, right? Of course, when you get here, you want to check and make sure that the resulting fraction is not factorable, because sometimes the resulting fraction can be factored. Sometimes, right? Like, for example, if I wanted to do 2 over 25 plus 3 over 25, that gives me 5 over 25. But then I can simplify 5 over 25 to get 1 over 5. 5 goes into both 25 and 5. So you always have to check and make sure that the resulting fraction is not reducible. You have to be able to reduce it. You have to reduce it if it's reducible. Okay? And by reducible, I mean simplify the fraction. Same thing. Reduce the fraction, simplify the fraction. Now, what about the case where the denominators are different? Well, let's say I have something like this. 2 over 5 plus 3 over 4. Well, there are quite a few different ways of doing this. I'm just going to show you how I do it. You don't have to use my method. Here's how I do it. I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to find what we call the LCD or the LCM, the least common denominator or the least common multiple. In other words, the biggest number you can think of that both 5 and 4 can go into. Or the smallest number, excuse me, I'm sorry, the smallest number, the least common multiple or the least common denominator is going to be 20 in this case. And then I'm going to say 20 divided by 5 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 20 divided by 4 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. And you can always change this into a mixed number if you so desire. Elizabeth, do you have any questions? Once again, I cannot see anything until I pull this up. I can't see if you're typing anything, so I have to ask every now and then. Okay. No question. Okay. Elizabeth doesn't